A cowboy found a broken woman in the creek and gave her his name. The wind moved slowly across the open plains of Montana, bending the tall grass like waves on a quiet ocean. It was the kind of evening where the sky stretched endlessly, painted in shades of gold and fading blue. For most people, it was just another sunset. But for one cowboy, it was the moment his life changed forever. His name was Caleb Turner. He was the kind of man who preferred horses over crowds and silence over small talk. Living on a ranch outside a small town near the foothills of the Rockies, Caleb had built a simple life with his own two hands. He believed in hard work, in keeping his word, and in letting the past stay where it belonged, buried. But sometimes, the past has a way of flowing back to you, just like a creek after a storm. That afternoon, Caleb was riding along the outer fence line of his property, checking for storm damage. The rain from the night before had been heavy, and the creek that cut through the north side of his land had risen higher than usual. He didn't expect to find anything out of the ordinary. Maybe a fallen branch. Maybe a broken fence post. Instead, he found her. At first, he thought it was debris caught against the rocks. A piece of torn fabric tangled in the reeds. But as he rode closer, his horse became restless. Caleb dismounted, boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. He walked toward the edge of the creek, heart pounding for reasons he couldn't explain. There, half submerged in the cold water, was a woman. Her clothes were soaked and torn. Her dark hair clung to her face. Bruises marked her arms, and her lips were pale from the chill. She looked lifeless, fragile, like someone the world had already given up on. Caleb didn't hesitate. He stepped into the icy water, lifted her carefully, and carried her back to his truck. She was lighter than she should have been. Too light, as if life itself had been slowly drained from her long before the creek carried her to him. He drove fast but steady, glancing at her every few seconds. She was breathing, barely, but she was alive. At the nearest hospital, the doctors worked quickly. Hypothermia, dehydration, signs of trauma. When they asked Caleb who she was, he had no answer. "I found her," he said simply. They asked if he was family. He paused. "No," he replied. "But she's not alone." The doctors did what they could. She had no identification, no phone, no clues about where she came from. The sheriff's office ran missing person reports, but nothing matched immediately. It was as if she had appeared out of nowhere, carried by the current of pain and silence. For 3 days, she remained unconscious. Caleb visited every morning before tending to the ranch and every evening before the sun set. He didn't know why. He wasn't the kind of man who involved himself in strangers' lives. But something about her, something broken yet still fighting, pulled at him. On the 4th day, she opened her eyes. They were a soft shade of green, clouded with confusion and fear. When the nurse asked her name, she hesitated. Tears formed instead of words. "It's okay," Caleb said gently from the chair beside her bed. She turned toward his voice. "You're safe," he added. She looked at him as if trying to decide whether she believed that. Her memory came in fragments. She remembered arguing, running, rain, the sound of rushing water. And then nothing. The sheriff tried again to identify her, but no missing persons report matched her description. It was possible she had come from another state. Possible someone had hurt her. Possible she had tried to disappear. When they asked what name to put on her hospital chart, she stayed silent. Caleb felt something shift in his chest. "Put her down as Anna," he said quietly. She looked at him. "Anna Turner." The nurse raised an eyebrow. "Is she your wife?" Caleb met Anna's uncertain eyes. "She is now," he said firmly. "At least until she remembers who she is." It wasn't legal paperwork. It wasn't official. But in that moment, it was something stronger, a promise. When Anna was released from the hospital, Caleb brought her to the ranch. The house was small but warm, with wooden floors and wide windows that let in morning light. At first, she barely spoke. Loud noises made her flinch. Nightmares woke her in cold sweats. Caleb never pushed. He gave her space, gave her time. He showed her how to feed the horses, how to collect eggs from the hens, how to watch the sky for changing weather. Slowly, routine began to replace fear. Some wounds aren't visible. Some scars don't show on skin. Caleb understood that better than most. Years ago, he had lost his younger brother in a car accident. Since then, he had kept his world small, controlled, predictable. But Anna changed that. One afternoon, as they repaired a section of fence together, she laughed for the first time. It was sudden and bright, like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. Caleb froze, startled by the sound. "You okay?" she asked, still smiling. "Yeah," he replied softly. "Just haven't heard that in a while." Over the months, pieces of her returned. She remembered her favorite color, the smell of her grandmother's kitchen, a song she used to hum. But whenever she tried to recall what happened before the creek, her breathing quickened and panic set in. So Caleb stopped asking. Instead, he focused on building something new. The town began to talk. A mysterious woman, a cowboy who claimed her as his own. Some whispered judgment. Others offered quiet support. But Caleb didn't care about gossip. He cared about the way Anna's shoulders no longer tensed every time a truck drove past the ranch. He cared about the way she started planting wildflowers near the porch. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Anna turned to him. "Why did you give me your name?" she asked. Caleb took a long breath. "Because everyone deserves a place to start over," he said. "And a name is a good place to begin." She studied him. "What if my past comes back?" "Then we'll face it," he replied. Together. Months turned into a year. Anna grew stronger, healthier, happier. The bruises faded. The nightmares became less frequent. And somewhere between feeding horses and fixing fences, she fell in love with the quiet cowboy who had pulled her from the water. Caleb felt it too, the steady warmth of something real. Then one autumn morning, a black SUV pulled into the ranch driveway. Two people stepped out, a man in a suit and a woman with tear-filled eyes. They had been searching for her. Her real name was Elise Harper. She had vanished nearly 2 years ago after leaving an abusive fiancé in another state. He had connections, money, influence. When she tried to escape, he had found her. The night she ended up in the creek, she had been running again. The woman standing on the porch was her sister. When Elise, Anna, saw her, memories flooded back like a storm breaking through a dam. Pain, fear, but also love, family, a life she once had. The reunion was emotional, overwhelming. Caleb stood back, heart tight but steady. He had always known this day might come. That night, Elise sat across from him at the kitchen table. "I remember everything," she said quietly. He nodded. "They want me to come home." Silence stretched between them. "What do you want?" he asked. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I found home here." Caleb's jaw tightened. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I helped because it was right, not because I expected you to stay." She reached across the table, taking his rough hand in hers. "You didn't just save my life," she whispered. "You gave me back my name. You gave me a future." Weeks later, Elise made her choice. She would reconnect with her family. She would testify against the man who hurt her. She would reclaim her past, but she would build her future on the ranch. And this time, when she took the name Turner, it was official. Their wedding was small, simple, under a wide Montana sky with only close friends and family. No secrets, no fear, just promise. The creek still runs along the edge of their land. The water still rises after storms. But now, when Elise stands by it, she doesn't see the place where she nearly lost everything. She sees the place where she was found. This story isn't just about a cowboy or a broken woman. It's about second chances. It's about the power of kindness in a world that can be unbearably cruel. It's about how sometimes the smallest decision, stopping by a creek, stepping into cold water, offering a name, can rewrite someone's entire destiny. Maybe you felt broken. Maybe life has knocked you down, dragged you through currents you didn't think you could survive. But here's the truth. Being broken doesn't mean being finished. Sometimes it just means you're waiting for a new beginning. Caleb didn't see a lost cause in the creek. He saw a life worth saving. And maybe that's the lesson we all need to remember. When you have the chance to help someone, take it. When you have the chance to start over, take it. And when someone offers you a hand in your darkest moment, don't be afraid to hold on. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and the quiet strength of love, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We share powerful, emotional stories that remind you of what truly matters. Hope, courage, resilience, and the kind of love that changes lives. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could inspire your day or even change your perspective. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that no matter how deep the water gets, there is always a shore waiting for you. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to step into the cold and say, "You're not alone." And that can make all the difference.